All right. Hello and welcome to the Trusted Podcast. I'm your host, Blake Johnson. We've got special guest today, David Nixon. He is a commercial real estate agent, and we're going to talk about stuff relating to that. So, David, welcome to the program.
Yeah, thanks, Blake. Appreciate it. Glad we could finally make this work and get on.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so let's just jump right in. Give me a little bit of background about yourself and how you got into commercial real estate, and then talk about JLL, the firm you work with, and kind of what makes them a leader in your guys' field.
Yeah, so originally from Texas, grew up my whole life there. My father was a professor at Texas A&M University, and so grew up there, big Aggie fan. But eventually came up to BYU. Went to school at BYU and studied and majored in finance. So during my undergrad, I took a class in real estate and quickly fell in love with it. And so post BYU, did an internship with a local group here in Salt Lake City that owns a lot of properties, mostly all office properties. And quickly realized that leasing was the one avenue I wanted to go into. And so that's what I do now with JLL. I'm an office commercial real estate broker, specializing just in leasing and selling office space for my clients. And I focus primarily here in Salt Lake City down to Utah County as well. Yeah, it's been a great experience. And as far as our firm goes, we're a publicly traded Fortune 500 company. Based out of Chicago is our North American headquarters, and in London, our international headquarters. But we've got 92,000 employees and pretty large corporation. So because of that, it's fun. I get to deal a lot with local companies here in Utah that are homegrown here. And then, of course, as well, I get to deal with a lot of national companies that JLL represents across the globe. So get to see a little bit of both and get to experience both and help out my clients with whatever needs they have.
Okay. So you mentioned you focus specifically in the office area. I think commercial has so many different avenues. Otherwise with residential, you got homes. That's it. But just briefly give us an overview of what different types of commercial real estate there are out there.
Yeah. So everyone hears the term commercial real estate, and you got to keep in mind it's a very broad term. To your point, there's a lot of different sectors within commercial real estate, and so you've got, a lot of times when we have kids that are in college that I meet with that are looking for a job and they want to be in the commercial real estate world. And we have to break it down for them that there's a lot of different sectors. First of all, you could be a landlord. So you can go with a developer who's going to tie up some ground and build on it, right? That's one avenue you can go. You got landlords that just solely own existing product. They go around and buy up existing product, hold on to it, try to lease it out, and then flip it later, right? So that's another avenue. And then, of course, you can go into brokerage, which is what I'm in. But even brokerage has a whole bunch of different avenues. So I'm an office real estate broker, but there's brokers that specialize in industrial or warehouse. Other ones that focus just on retail. So your Starbucks and McDonald's, brokers that handle just that area. And then there's brokers that do just multifamily, so the big apartment complexes. And then there's also brokers that do what we call capital markets, that they handle all the big investment sales properties. So when a building is trading for $100 million in New York or whatever city it may be in, they handle that whole transaction. So there's lots of different areas you can go into. And when I talk to these young kids that are trying to figure it all out, for me, it's always telling them, listen, you got to figure out what's your passion. For me, office space was always really interesting to me. I figured with my network that I created while at BYU, I knew a lot of CEOs who were the same, a lot of tech guys that were my age that were starting new companies that could help them with their office space. And so for me, it's kind of finding what are you interested in, where do you think your best niche would be, and then kind of following that process. So yeah, commercial real estate is a very broad term, but there's a lot of nuances to it and kind of different avenues you can go, whether you want to be on the landlord side or you want to be on the brokerage side. And then even when you're on the brokerage side, even though I'm an office real estate broker here in Utah, it's a little more broad because it's a smaller market. But when you get into Chicago or New York or LA, you've got brokers that just specialize in office, but only specialize in representing landlords, or just specialize in representing tenants, the buyers, if you will. And so as you get in bigger markets as well, you start to specialize where they just represent only attorneys, or they represent only medical groups. And so, find your niche and what market you want to be in, et cetera, is kind of how you can proceed from there. But like I said, I do office. I represent both buyers and sellers here in Utah, and been doing it now for 8-9 years. So going strong, even throughout the crazy times that we're in right now.
Awesome. So let's dial in about office space. What are some of the biggest mistakes you see people make when they're going to get into a lease? So let's talk about the seller or the buyer side, the person actually leasing the property. What mistakes do they make when they're trying to go lease or buy a property?
I think the biggest thing that somebody new to this whole industry and this whole process would be is understand your own needs. So oftentimes landlords are going to push you to commit to more term, a 5-year, 7-year, 10-year lease. And if you're a growing tech company or a company that's uncertain with what their future looks like, it's important for you to realize that you can get into shorter term leases. That flexibility is actually more important than maybe the rate. So you might have to pay a little bit of a premium for a rate, but you get to maintain your flexibility with a shorter term lease. Because if you lock yourself into a 5-year lease, you've outgrown the space in 2 years, it starts to limit your options. Obviously, the kind of next step, you have to sublease, and there's costs incurred with that. And so I say first and foremost, when you're starting this process of I need office space, try to map out what your horizon, what your growth plan is as a tenant and as a company. Are you going to double your growth? Are you going to just slowly grow over time? How fast that growth is going to occur? And then as a broker, you engage a professional to help you basically go out and find the right position for you at the right building and the right lease, really. I find with a lot of my tenants that are just starting out, subleases are great. Subleases, typically you get a little bit of a discount, and you can get locked into a 1-year or 2-year deal, which provides some flexibility. And the great thing that's really emerged within the last couple of years is this co-working space with WeWorks, Industrious, some of these groups where you can go take space for 6 months at a time and do shorter term or longer term leases, and allows you to grow and be flexible in that sense as well.
Okay, awesome. So let's flip it. Let's flip to the other side. The people selling or leasing the space. What are some mistakes that they make, when they're trying to get their property out there?
Yeah, so oftentimes, you got to keep in mind, commercial real estate, I tell people all the time, you have deep pockets if you're a landlord, because if you look at the deal, if you were to come to me and you wanted 5,000 square feet of office space, well, most likely what happens is you negotiate the deal where you're going to get some tenant improvement dollars, so you get an allowance up front to help build out your space. Of course, you get some other concessions like free rent. You have to negotiate the rate. And so if you're a landlord, your outlay of cash up front, your capital up front, can be pretty extensive depending on the group you're dealing with. And so credit is a huge deal for a landlord, because basically you're betting that I'm going to give you $300,000-$400,000 in free rent and tenant improvements to build out your space. And I'm betting on the fact that you're going to be in business 2 or 3 years from now to help make up and pay back that $400,000 I basically lent you. And so credit and scrutinizing credit and ensuring that they're going to be able to pay you back is key. The flip side of that is here in Utah and Silicon Valley and a lot of these other markets where tech is pretty prevalent, there's not a lot of credit to be had. And so you've got to be creative on what type of securitization of lease you try to get, in the sense that you can maybe take stock in the company, get some equity, whatever it may be, in order to make sure that you get a nice little return. And so we see it with a whole bunch of different landlords. Every landlord is different, I will say that. A lot of them have different objectives. Some are cash flow. Some are more worried about the rate and about getting a yield as far as what they can do with that property with the rates. So it's just understanding the objectives of your own company as a landlord and what you want to achieve, and then be able to structure deals around that.
Okay. What about the selling side of things, not necessarily leasing it out?
Yeah, selling's all about timing, and really trying to capitalize on a hot market. Typically, when you sell a building, it comes down to cap rates and the NOI that's in place on your building. And so, the higher you can push rates and rent, the better. Obviously, the more money your building is valued at. And so, understanding that process and how to achieve that is a kind of craft in and of itself, because there are ways to push rates and offer more concessions, which once again affects your NOI then of course applying that cap rate. And so timing is key, but also having some staying power, and be able to weather the times and weather some of maybe the low ball offers, whatever it may be, is important. So it's kind of a combination of a few things, but when you're looking to sell, you're looking for that one right buyer. And frankly, you're also, there's different objectives. I've seen this with some buildings where I had a client that went in and bought a building. They actually kicked out a tenant and opened up an opportunity for an owner user to come in and buy the building. And there were 2 other tenants that were leasing, so they had some income already in place. But by kicking out that tenant, he got much better value because owner users typically pay a little bit of a premium. Whereas if he would have tried to sell it as an investment property, he wouldn't have been able to achieve as high of a purchase price. So, you've got to look at it from all different angles. And once again, that's why hopefully hiring a professional will help you, be able to consult with you and make the best decision possible.
Yeah, I just want to clarify something for the listeners. You're familiar with residential because everybody, for the most part, has bought a sold home, and that's based on comparables. What's going on the house next to you selling for, and so on. Commercial is not that way. Mostly, it's based on the value and the return on the cash, from the tenants that they're paying. That's going to determine more price than necessarily what the building next to you sells for. That doesn't factor in nearly as much, if at all. And so just knowing, hey, look, it is a completely different field you're playing in. You can't go and look at comparables to do your pricing because there's too many other factors. And like you said, that's where having a professional really makes a difference.
That's right. When you try to compare it on a comp basis, it's kind of like oranges and apples. I mean, it helps. It's nice to look at them to kind of maybe prove that your numbers are in the right ballpark. But really, like you said, it comes down to the leases that are in place and what those leases are paying. And then we talked about credit earlier. Credit comes into play as well, because the buyer's hoping that XYZ company who has good credit, whether it be a Fortune 100, 500, or not any type of Fortune type company, can they make that rent? And so that's where, if you're a landlord and you're trying to get your building ready to sell, you want to make sure that those leases that are in place have good credit, but also the longer term helps because that provides some stability for the new buyer as well. So oftentimes when somebody's looking to go sell a building, they try to renegotiate those leases that are in place and try to get more term on them to provide a little bit of certainty for that new buyer.
Okay. So what can our listeners do when they're trying to find a good, trusted commercial real estate agent?
Well, oftentimes we hear in residential, I think these days with Zillow and all the different types of apps, I think it is possible for you to go out there and kind of do it your own way, right? Do it by yourself. Go find a home, negotiate it, and close on it. Commercial is a little different. Similar to, if you're listening, if you have a commercial company, you probably don't use TurboTax to do your taxes in the year for your company. You usually hire a CFO or a trusted advisor in that sense. Same thing with the real estate. You're dealing with a multi-million-dollar transaction, most likely. Hire a professional to come in and help you negotiate that. And when you're looking for a professional, I think experience is huge. Understanding how long they've been doing this for, because every lease is different and every transaction is different. And somebody that's been around the block and has experienced a whole bunch of different ways to structure leases is obviously helpful. But also find somebody that understands your business, because once again, a medical doctor that's going to sign a 10-year lease is going to structure a lease different than a tech company that's about to go raise a Series A of funding and is not cash flow positive. So those leases and the securitization behind them are all going to be different. And so if you are a tech company, finding somebody that's dealt with tech is helpful. And same thing, if you're a doctor, find a broker that has done a lot of medical type leases is helpful as well. So finding a true professional in your area of expertise is probably most beneficial. But I'd say interview them and ask them questions. Once again, find out what they've done, when they've done it. Usually a good sign is somebody that is doing a lot of deals, that has a lot of volume, because they are seeing the terms out in the market that are there right now. Because as we know, with COVID-19 and the different terms that are coming around, it's very fluid. And so what was market 2 weeks ago is different 2 weeks now, given the stage of kind of where the economy is and everything. And so having a broker that understands those nuances helps. But I think, trying to go out there and maybe interview a couple brokers and see which one provides the most value is probably the smartest thing to do in that sense.
Okay. Are there any red flags out there that are like definitely do not use this person if you hear these words, see these things, or is there a place to go check? Something about how commercial realtors are rated, or like for the state bar, we have the bar is discipline if we mess up or something like that. Is there something that in your industry?
Yeah, it's a real estate board. So keep in mind, here in Utah, the commercial real estate license is the same as a residential license. So we have to go through the same tests and have to renew every few years as well. So you could probably go to the Utah State Board to see if there's been any issues there. But I would say it's probably just your own smell test. When you meet with them and you interview a couple different brokers to help represent you, I think you'll have a pretty clear idea of which broker you want to work with based off of your interactions with them. And I'd say response time is big. We talk about it all the time. Time kills all deals. And if you have a broker that's maybe too busy, that's not going to put your specific deal at the top of his list and make it a priority, it's probably not a right fit. So understanding who you are as a business and trying to align that with a potential broker is key. The thing with brokerage is you're creating these relationships that are going to hopefully last for decades, right? I mean, you're going to be hopefully be in business as a company. As a broker, you're hopefully be in business for a while. And so the relationship side of things is very important. You got to get somebody you trust because they're representing you on your behalf. And most likely you're probably going to hopefully keep that relationship as years go on. And so finding the right person to begin with is key. And I think everyone has their own intuition and figuring out whether it's a good fit or not. And interviewing through brokers probably the smartest thing to do.
Okay. And that seems to be a common theme with no matter what the industry is that we talk about on this show is, one, trust your gut. Two, you got to interview a couple of people. I think you would probably agree that, asking around who have other people in your industry have used and what their, results were. And then people who are, going to communicate. I think that's, the number one complaint in any professional services industry is, do they actually get back to me? Do they follow up? Do they do what they say they're going to do? And so I think if there's, not that in the first couple of meetings, that to me is always a red flag, no matter what the industry is, because if they can't do it when they're trying to earn your business, how is it going to be when they actually have your business? So that's definitely, a big no-no.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's a great point. And, it's like I said, you're dealing with a transaction that could be potentially hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. And so you need somebody you can trust and somebody that can get back to you in a timely manner and really be able to relay the information properly. I mean, at the end of the day, as a broker, I wear a lot of different hats. I've got the sales side, I've got the business development side, I've got the analysis side where I have to take the information, put it into analysis, to be able to explain to you what your cash flows are going to look like and what the NPV of this certain deal and the net effective rates are with each transaction. And so understanding all of that and having a broker that can kind of lead you through that whole process is key. And so I think that's where, like I said, interviewing and understanding what their objectives are as a broker and then seeing if those match with you and as a company, that's probably the best way to start.
Okay. Is there anything super important about commercial real estate that we overlooked?
No, I'd say it's an interesting world. I mean, I think a lot of people, like I said, with so much information at our fingertips, a lot of people will probably think, oh, I can do this myself. I can go on LoopNet, for example, as a website where you can see all the available listings. And we tell our clients, I mean, that's the easiest thing to do is go find the actual building. The hard thing is negotiating and making sure that all the nuances are in place. So we'll negotiate an entire LOI, and then you move from there to a lease document that has a lot of, keep in mind, every landlord, when they present you with a lease, is very landlord heavy. So you need to make sure you have a trusted advisor and commercial real estate broker, but also engaging a real estate attorney to work through that document to make sure you're protected on all sides is key as well. But yeah, I think it's a fun process. I love my job. I genuinely look forward to going to work every day because I get to deal with great clients. Our interests are aligned in trying to find them the best deal possible and making sure they save their company's money. And same when I represent landlords, trying to represent them the best possible way and making sure that tenants that are coming to their building are going to improve their building, not detract from it. And so trying to find creative solutions, because like I said, every single deal is different. It's not, residential is a little more of here's your rep C and fill out the rep C and you negotiate some things here and there, but commercial is completely different. There's a lot of different items you got to negotiate and sort through. So I'd say, find somebody, like I said, you trust and engage them. And the great thing about commercial real estate is our fees are all included in that lease rate that you're paying. And so, one thing that people always mention is, well, what if I go unrepresented to this building? Can I get 3% taken off my lease rate? And to our point earlier, that doesn't work because the building is valued at all the leases that are in place. So if a landlord takes 50 cents off the lease rate, he's instantly devalued his building. So commercial is a little different than residential in that sense, where you can't really just reduce the fees. And so for us, it's a win-win for our clients because the fees are already baked into what those lease rates are. And I think we really do provide great value and try to make sure they're taken care of.
Awesome. How can people get in touch with you if they have questions about commercial real estate, especially there in Utah?
Yeah, so my email is david.nixon@am, as in America, .jll.com, or my office line is 801-456-9518. And the great thing about JLL, as I mentioned from the start, is that we are worldwide. So if you have a need in Utah or if you have a need in Japan, we can help you with any of those needs. So I've got fellow colleagues all over the country and all over the world that can jump in at a moment's notice and help you with whatever lease you have. So no lease is too small and no lease is too big. That we can help with anything. And like I said, for us, we truly value it as a partnership when we partner up with our clients and try to drive the best value possible, so you take care of your company.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'll put the link to his email and his phone number in the show notes so that you guys can easily access that there. David, I want to thank you for being on the show. As always, to our listeners, please like, subscribe, give us reviews, let us know what you want to see on the show next. We want to make sure we provide you with all the information about how to choose a trusted advisor, no matter what industry it's in. So, David, thank you again for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks, Blake. Take care.
All right, we'll see you next time.